You know, you often hear about how getting old sucks, or how getting old is not for the weak, that kind of thing. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not all bad. There are actually some good things about getting old, and this video is going to be about my top five. Top five things good about getting old. And if you stick around to the end, there might be a bonus at the end. Greetings, I'm Paul Deeds. If you've been here before, you know that, and you know that I'm a proud boomer. And that's what this channel is about. Being a boomer, the good things and the bad things. If you haven't been here before, welcome. Glad you have found the channel. And rather than complaining about getting old, this week's installment is about the good things about getting old. So let's get to it. Number one, and these might not be in any particular order, or the order the order may change day by day. You know how it is. Sometimes some things are more important to you one day than they are the next day. So anyway, these are top five. The top five today, or the top five this week in no particular order, shall we say. So number one is the time to sit and ponder. You know, when I was younger, I used to have a hard time relaxing, hard time just sitting around because there was always something to do. You know, you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, whatever it is. You know, that only leaves you a certain amount of time to do other things, to do the things that need to be done, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow, painting, what all that. So you don't have a lot of time just to sit and ponder and not feel guilty. I always felt guilty because there was always something else that should be getting done. These days, and it's partially thanks to retirement at any age, but getting older too, you start to realize a few things, and taking the time to sit and ponder things, think about things, is one of life's little pleasures at this age, for me. Then these are all my opinion, of course. I don't feel like it's wasted time anymore. It's a From time to time it's a worthwhile endeavor just sitting and pondering. Now, granted, I still like to do things. I like to stay busy, but when I'm not busy, when I'm sitting and sitting and pondering, taking my time, I feel less guilty. And you notice I said less guilty. And number two is wisdom and awareness. And I have to tell you right off the bat, I'm not real comfortable with the word wisdom or claiming wisdom. I think that's a dangerous thing. So what I'll say is more wise than I once was. Let's put it that way. I have a problem with people that claim to be wise. I'm not a Bible pro, but there's a verse in Romans, I think it's 122, and it goes, professing to be wise, they became fools. And now the context is different, of course, but I think even out of context, it's something to ponder. It's kind of how I feel about it. If somebody claims to be wise, you get my drift. Anyway, 76 years of experiences has provided me with a certain amount of awareness of things. You know, at a certain point, I lost some of my youthful naivete. Is that how you pronounce it? Not quite as naive as I once was. And that comes from experience. And I guess you can call that wisdom. It's a matter of recognize the way things are as opposed to how they should be or how they could be. For a long time, I've considered myself a optimistic realist. And my perspective has changed over the years naturally. I think most people's do. But I still consider myself a optimistic realist. And you know, wisdom and awareness don't come automatically with age. You have to pay attention. You know, if you're not paying attention, the wisdom and awareness is going to slip by you. And I think we all know older people that don't seem to have paid very close attention. You know, they're out there. I think awareness, being aware of things, what's going on around you, is really a big deal in life. It has been for me anyway. Got to pay attention. The good, the bad, the ugly. You got to be aware of it all. Agree with some of it, disagree with some of it, be aware of it anyway. That's my opinion. And number three is overwhelming gratitude. And this should probably be number one every day, every week, every month. I don't know. But anyway, today it's number three, overwhelming gratitude. Being grateful for this great life, this great adventures that I've had, the good and the bad, all of it. I've said it many times in previous videos. I'm grateful for all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And Kathy and I have one of these things we call one of those moments where the gratitude just seems to overwhelm you. It comes on you for a particular reason. Just it could be a look or a word or any number of reasons, but it's just overwhelming gratitude, and we call it one of those moments, and we still have them from time to time. Just a gratitude for everything, for being in the position we're in, for being with each other, for being able to do the things that we do. It's a it's hard to explain if you haven't experienced. It's a very emotional moment. It doesn't last a long, long time, but it's pretty powerful. I know it'll probably sound trite to a lot of people, but it's a moment that actually chokes you up. If you had one of those, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I hope someday you do because it's pretty awesome. And it brings to mind a scene in the movie American Beauty. If you know the movie American Beauty, there's a scene in it. They call it the plastic bag scene, where Ricky and Jane are in the room, and he shows her a video that he's taken of a plastic bag blowing in the wind. And there's a line in it that had struck me when he first time I saw it, and it's still with me. And he says, "There's so much beauty in the world that I feel like I can't take it." It's a very emotional scene in the movie, and it stuck with me. A lot of people think it's a trite scene. I don't. If you know the movie, you probably know the scene I'm talking about. But anyway, that's that's one of those moments. It seemed like he was having one of those moments of overwhelming gratitude. And number four is a better understanding of relationships, the differences between friends, acquaintances, relatives, and the realization that relationships don't have to be perfect to be valuable. We have different levels of relationships. People that we're really close to are friends. People that we're happy to be around, see from time to time. People that we spend time with but are not necessarily that close. What it means to be a friend and what it means to have a friend. The realization that the older you get, the more it's about quality and less about quantity. When you're younger, you like to have a lot of friends, do a lot of things and whatnot. You get a little bit older, the really important relationships kind of rise to the top a little bit. You understand a little bit better. Not so much, well, it is partly who you can count on. I made a comment in one of my other videos about the friend, a true friend, being the one that you would call if you found yourself in trouble and needed help. That's the friend. You wouldn't call an acquaintance for that probably. And I think the older you get, the more you realize the difference. And it's good to know the difference. And moving on to number five. Number five is caring more and caring less. It's a greater understanding of the difference between the big things and the small things. And like like I've said in a couple of my previous videos, it's mostly small stuff. So don't sweat the small stuff because it's mostly small stuff. And it's not always what you thought it was. The things you thought were big things earlier, come to find out they're not. They really don't matter much. Or at least they don't matter as much as you thought they did. What really matters becomes more obvious the older you get. There are a couple of comments that that come to mind that sound rude, and they've always been considered rude to me, but they have a certain validity. The first one is who cares? it sounds a little it sounds a little rude to me. And the other one is so what? And that sounds a little rude to me too. But if you think about it, somebody says something or something happens, so what? Who cares? That's the small stuff. You care a little bit less, or you care a lot less about what other people think, what other people say. So if here's for instance for you, when I was younger, I was always taught, always believed that the colors blue and brown don't go together. Unless you're Bill Blass, apparently, because in 1977 he had a there was a Lincoln Mark V edition that he designed or did the colors for, or whatever, blue and brown. Go figure. And it was a pretty popular car at the time, 1977 Lincoln Mark V, blue and brown. And after that, oh, blue and brown was okay because Bill Blass said it was okay. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous to me anyway. So another thing is the Red Hat Society. God bless them. My mother was in the Red Hat Society, and you probably know what it is, or may know what it is. A group of generally older women who wear red hats and purple shirts. Well, of course, red and purple aren't supposed to go together either, and that's the whole idea with the society is that we're going to do what we please. So what? Who cares? So my mother was a red hat, a proud red hat. So that's another one of those situations. I don't care what you think about what colors I wear. If I want to wear blue and brown, I'll wear blue and brown. If I want to wear red and purple, I'll wear red and purple. You know, what does it hurt? What does it matter? Why should you care what I wear? That kind of thing, that attitude, that becomes a little more prominent the older you get. Okay, well, that's the top five, and I told you that there might be a little bonus here towards the end. So if you've stuck around this long, here's your bonus: 5 plus. The bonus good thing about getting older is you get away with stuff. Being that person that they say, "Oh, let him be. He's old." So you can do that. You can get away with stuff. Most people, a lot of people, maybe even most people, I don't know, are a little bit more forgiving of older people. So we can, we can do things and get away with it, that younger people might not be able to. When Kathy was working at the nursing home, there was an old guy there. I think he was a wheelchair bound actually. And when the nurses go by, he would give him the smack with the back of his hand. No, I grant you that, this day and age especially, people are a lot more sensitive to that kind of thing. But if it was a younger guy doing that, he'd be in a lot more trouble than this old guy in a wheelchair. So, if that offends you, I apologize. But to me, I'm not that sensitive about that kind of thing. So, it's funny to me. So, sorry. So there's my top five good things about getting old. What did I leave out? What do you think is a good thing about getting old? Leave it in the comments. I'd like to hear how other people feel about getting older. There's got to be something good for you too about getting old. So what is it? Social Security check? Whatever it is, leave it down in the comments. I'd like to hear it. If you disagree or agree with the my top five, I'd like to hear that too. I can take disagreement. So let me know what I left out. So until next time, thanks for being here. Peace and joy, my friends.